You know, you hate to talk about something like this, you really do. Because today, we are diving into two of my favorite teams, the Montreal Canadiens and the Vancouver Canucks, and going over the latest in regards to injuries. Because earlier this morning, the Montreal Canadiens made themselves a very particular roster move. They ended up calling up Joshua Waugh as well as Mark Delgaizo from the Laval Rocket onto the main squad. And it was also revealed by the Montreal Canadiens that Kirby Dach, he would be accompanying the team on this road trip that they've got. However, Patrik Laine will not travel with the team. Now, this ended up sparking a really interesting discussion on the Montreal Canadiens subreddit. You had fans going out there and expressing their concern, but also saying some pretty pessimistic things. The idea that Patrik Laine is going to be missing out even more time with the Montreal Canadiens, guess what? These next few games that they've got in this road trip, they've got Calgary, Edmonton, Vancouver, and then Seattle. That's going to take up the next week's worth of Canadiens play, and Patrik Laine is expected to miss the entire time. At some point, you just gotta start feeling for the guy. From the way he was on the bench during the Canadiens' comeback overtime win against the Predators, how he didn't seem to celebrate, it didn't really seem like he was all that excited compared to the rest of the team, to now missing more and more time, especially when you consider how poorly he was playing with the Canadiens before he ended up getting hurt. I mean, at this point, you think about the contract, you think about how St. Louis uses the guy, you think about how not mobile he is. If it gets to a point where Patrik Laine is no longer going to be a meaningful part of the Canadiens moving forward, at the very least we can appreciate the stellar run that he had last season that got the Canadiens in the playoffs and that put them in this really good spot with his power play goals and his consistent goal scoring. Okay, I say consistent. It was consistent when it was consistent, but in general it wasn't consistent, if you know what I mean. He would score in bunches, and Marty St. Louis is absolutely right in that Patrik Laine was a part of the reason the Canadiens even made the playoffs in the first place. He was that damn important, and we'll never forget it, man. Like, I'm speaking about it like Patrik Laine is going to be done with the Canadiens forever, but, like, assuming he comes back and he ends up playing at some point, then okay, like, we'll go out there and start evaluating him at that point, but I think right now, Patrik Laine is entering that sort of Ilya Kovalchuk territory in my mind, where he was totally beloved when he was on his game. Maybe wasn't on his game the entire time, but he brought energy, he brought a lot to like, and even though he wasn't perfect, he was still a guy going out there and doing some pretty reasonable work. So, Patrik Laine, after trying so hard and working to get back to the level he was at a few years ago, this doesn't really seem like the time for that to happen, so we will of course hope for the best in his recovery. Kirby Dach seems to be joining the team. It's assumed that he will play at some point, so obviously that is going to be interesting with the way Oliver Kapanen is now deployed with Demidov, and you still have Evans, and Joe Veleno has looked pretty alright too. Owen Beck was sent down as well, so that's also an intriguing part of the story. But let's shift gears over to the Vancouver Canucks, because earlier this morning on Donnie and Dolly, you had yourselves Rick Dollywell giving us the scoop as to the latest on Canucks forward Filip Chytil. Now, he goes out there and says that everything is on the table in terms of thinking about his future. And thanks to Canucks News Summaries, big shout out to them as always, we have ourselves the written text as to what Dollywell says. In regards to Filip Chytil, Vancouver is monitoring his situation. Most likely he saw a doctor yesterday. If he showed concussion symptoms yesterday, there will be a major concern here. He's dealing with his possibly 7th career concussion. The Canucks have not yet asked for year-long LTIR, They must declare him out for the season and playoffs in order to use his full cap hit to hit their LTIR pool, and everything else is on the table in terms of his future. That, my friends, is really, really upsetting. Tom Wilson, you just made yourselves public enemy #1 here in the city of Vancouver for what he ended up doing to Filip Chytil, and I think for a lot of Canucks fans, this is definitely the worst case scenario. I mean, Vancouver came into the season looking forward to seeing what Chytil could bring, and there was a lot of optimism on his potential, and the management and the coaching staff, they were hyping him up like crazy, saying all the right things and talking about how they have full belief in him to be as good as he could become, but unfortunately, Filip Chytil wasn't able to show that for a good chunk of time before getting taken out with that hit by Tom Wilson. And it's really weird because it's like, that wasn't even a headshot. It was just a normal body-to-body hit. Now, sure, it was late, and sure, it was totally against Chytil's momentum. It was not something he expected at all. But at the same time, you have to think about how this has been the story of Chytil's career. The guy doesn't keep his head up. He doesn't keep himself safe. He doesn't leave himself in proper protection positions to avoid contact that totally knocks the wind out of him. This has happened multiple times throughout his career, and it's resulted in the profile we see now, where all of a sudden Filip Chytil is in very precarious spots with his health. Now, in regards to the rest of the Canucks, Jonathan Lekkerimäki, Rick Dhaliwal said he's hearing Lekkerimäki's out a couple of weeks. Besser is going to be out tonight. He's still dealing with a personal issue, and Teddy Blueger is not playing either. The Canucks are scouring the league in order to try finding a center, which bodes very well for tonight's game, because we're looking at a center core from Vancouver of EP40, Max Sasson, Atu Ratu, and Nils Åman. Like, that's the way everything is looking, and even Joe Labate is going to be playing here today, it looks like. P.O. Joseph might be suiting up against his old team in Pittsburgh as well, so hey, we got ourselves some really intriguing Vancouver Canucks line combos to study and pay attention to once today's game ends up starting. But with this in mind, I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about these Montreal Canadiens and Vancouver Canucks news and notes in regards to injuries, guys being out for an extended amount of time, and how does this make you feel? How is your level of optimism in regards to Patrik Laine and Filip Chytil? There's a lot to be excited for if these guys are on their game. But availability is also an issue. Laine getting hurt consistently, having all these growing pains, and when he's in the lineup he doesn't look good, but he has these explosion moments where he just goes out there with 2, 3, 4 power play goals in as many games. And Filip Chytil, he can have a multi-goal game anytime. He's got the skill, he's got the speed to drive play himself, but he just doesn't protect himself well. He doesn't keep his head up enough. So with all this in mind, let me know your thoughts in the comment section. How does this feel for you? If you enjoyed this video, feel free to hit the like button. If you didn't, hey, the dislike button is down there for you as well. Thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.